Stealth is still the superior tactic, I argued, and once again Rebecca scoffed. Some gigs you need to be sneaky, but nothing beats overwhelming firepower, she argued. It turns out that Rebecca didn't have a lot of chrome. Besides the obvious chem skin and stuff, but she had all of her chrome plotted out. Like how people would plan out every part of their perfect car, or all the pieces to make up their perfect gun. Funnily enough, I already knew most of her desires, having seen her future self. Firepower is great, I carry my boyu around in case I run into some borgfuck. But there is nothing better than sneaking up on somebody and just flatlining them without them noticing, I argued. And she scoffed. Optical camo is mid. You take that back, I demanded, and she just cackled as she was going to nothing of the sort. We had moved away from Maine's crew after a client had shown up, so Becca and I were hanging out at the bar, and to my delight we were getting along much better than we had at the start. Hey. Listen, I'm pissed that Rogue hasn't given me an invite yet. It has nothing to do with you specifically. The fact you were able to get an invite is preem, she admitted suddenly, swirling around her drink, and I realized she must have been a bit embarrassed at how she had acted. It's fine, Becca. I have another tune Jackie that gets the same way. I don't take it personally. It's gotta be frustrating. It is. I go on some of the gigs with Maine, but fucking Pillar makes sure I can't get involved. Maine brings me in as a distraction or some shit sometimes, but I'm never a shooter. Did you talk to Maine about it? Did he say why? Apparently I'm too fucking short and shit, she grumbled. Yeah, that was true. Rebecca was very small. You could fix that with chrome or bio. TCH. I don't hate that I'm short. It's fun sometimes. I just want to blow gonks' fucking heads off. I'm not a kid anymore. I'm 18. Ever think about branching out? I asked and instantly got a look from her. You asking me to join your crew? Not specifically like that. See, I got my core crew, but we don't have every skill set. We got a driver, a fixer, and a secondary solo. While I cover the net and solo duties. But I have my tune Jackie that's a big fuck. He's a solo. I brought him in once, and I want to do it more, and I want to increase the size of my team, even if it's just temp mercs. How about it? Want to go on a gig with a different team sometime? I don't know. Maine is being a shit, and Pillar is a fucking scumfuck gonk fucker. But I owe Maine. Hey, I'm not saying to betray your tunes. Just a job offer. Make some eddies, get more chrome, get some experience. I'll think about it. Can't say I really want to work with kids though. Hey. We made hundreds of thousands of eddies on our last gig. Mostly from selling off loot, vehicles and weapons. Wait. How much? My answer shocked Becca, and I couldn't help but laugh as I went into some detail on how Section 9 functioned. Fuck. Maine never loots the place like that. I'll have to do that next time, she muttered to herself, hand covering her lips. It takes time, and you have to have people to haul stuff out. You can't exactly wait around. She scoffed and nodded, downing her drink. You are not bad, kitten. Wah, kitten? Hee hee. You told me about your helmet, she pointed out with a wicked grin and a pointed finger. It's completely accidental that it looks like cat ears. I already told my tunes that it's not cat ears. Well, too late. Just like with whiskers, you're kitten now. Uck. I denied, crossing my arms in an X. I refuse. Too late. She cackled as I pouted at her. Rebecca was fun. We continued to shoot the shit for a while until Maine's crew finally got up to leave and Rebecca followed. All of us waving a goodbye. It was time to get back to work. Dash. Are you serious? No. I demanded, arms crossed into an X in absolute denial. Hiromi just rolled her eyes at me. I already talked to the dealer. We got a trader pass to get through the checkpoint. Hiromi. I am not taking you anywhere near the combat zone. That place is full of cyberpsychos. Dogtown is the best place in Night City to get gear, Motoko, and you were the one that wanted the ECM system. I found someone selling them, but they are in Dogtown and they aren't coming out. Then we do without, or find a different seller, I argued. I didn't know much about the combat zone. At least not the modern version of it. What I did know was that NCPD didn't go in there. That death was everywhere, and it was rumored that's where all the cyber psychos were put but the core. Either as a test, or some sick experiment. But Hiromi wasn't going anywhere near it. Motoko, you are being a total rust case here. Hey. Hiromi raised her hands to silence me and took a deep breath. Right. Sorry. That was mean, but you are way more dangerous than some gonks in the dog town. Plus we are going to the arena. Lots of trade goes on there. It's got the biggest black market in North Carolina. It's a fucking combat zone, Hiromi. I snapped at her, pacing around the front of the quadra. She had asked me to come pick her up, but there was no way I was driving into the combat zone. I wasn't crazy. Uck. Hiromi groaned as she followed me around as I paced around the car. Hiromi's parking garage was thankfully empty, so no one was able to hear our fight. I ran a chrome palm over my face, the cool metal soothing my temper. Seriously. Going out and fighting Raffen was one thing, but going into a damn combat zone was another. We need the ECM systems. Hiromi argued, and I instantly knew what was happening. She was trying to attack the conversation from the side. Luckily I gave zero fucks. Not enough to go into a combat zone. This isn't a life risk level thing, Hiromi. It's not dangerous. Well, not that dangerous. Going into Dogtown is perfectly normal, Motoko. For cyber psychos. Motoko, that is just a weird rumor, and not at all the truth. I even got information on Dogtown at the academy. As long as we stick to the main areas we will be fine. Bargust want people to come in and out. Dogtown is a wonderful spot for some black market trading. I grit my teeth and wanted to yell at her some more. Didn't she understand? I'm normally all for jumping into danger, but I knew nothing about the combat zone. Which was called Dogtown apparently. All I knew is that it was super mega dangerous and you don't fucking go there, so why was Hiromi so eager to run right towards it? Fine. She offered and I felt my breath come out in relief. Finally. I had gotten through to her. We'll just hire some additional protection. Problem solved. That doesn't. Damn it. I grumbled because it was sort of the answer. Fine. Good. She offered in return, smiling as if she had won. I grumbled under my breath as her eyes went yellow as she made some phone calls. Dash. Hey Jackie. Hermanita. I hear you are heading into Dogtown and want some guards, huh? The big man offered with a hearty chuckle. We were all meeting up at Hiromi's place, including the extra guards. More for Hiromi than anything. The combat zone is dangerous, and I know very little about it. It's not so bad. The Bargust Penchos are annoying, but as long as you aren't causing trouble they leave you alone. What's Bargust? A gang? I asked, curious, never having heard the name before. Yes and no. Jackie offered, waving his hand. Bargust are ex-Militech. They came to attack Night City during the war, ended up being ordered to leave because of Arasaka, but they never did. Just settled into Dogtown. Took it over. They live like the kings of Dogtown. Jackie offered with a shrug of his broad shoulders. They mostly just keep the peace, and earn eddies from the black market. I scoffed and wanted to growl and snarl. Hiromi was still coming, and I still had very little knowledge of what we were heading into. I shook it off. Hiromi was driving in with Malcolm in the Caliburn. I was leading in the quadra, and Yeka and Ichi would be our tail. A 3-car cavalcade to ensure that anyone that noticed us would think twice before trying anything. I still wasn't comfortable bringing my chums into a combat zone, but they all had smart weapons, besides Ichi, who hadn't gotten a smart link yet, but he had his truck. Relax, Hermanita, you are too tense. It's just Dogtown, yeah? Never been before, and I've only heard horror stories. It's not like that. Lots of folks head in for the black market. Hell, maybe you'll find something you want as well. They have some real preem black market chrome there. I just grunted as finally Malcolm arrived with his Caliburn, and we all synced up. I slid into the quadra, and soon after we were all driving through the city towards Pacifica. There was a low-level chatter as my chums talked amongst themselves, but I kept quiet, too anxious to really want to talk to anyone. Especially since I didn't want to do this. But I pushed it away and focused on protecting my chums. We drove through the city, reaching Pacifica, and I made sure to double my watch. The roads were quiet though. No NCPD around to cause trouble, and no voodoo boys jumping out to rob us. Instead we drove through the streets as we came to the checkpoint to the combat zone. Dogtown. I only vaguely remembered the name being used, so I really knew nothing about this place. It hadn't existed in the game that I played. We pulled through a guard checkpoint, men in armor standing around. All of it painted and non-standard. Skulls were common, as were images of snarling dogs. Bargust was it? Eventually we pulled into an entranceway and slowly we were allowed through. The entrance was covered in defenses, HMG turrets, and weapons of all sorts. Since I went in first, I got to see it all. They stopped my quadra, did a scan, and after checking the access token that Hiromi had set up, they waved me through. Into the combat zone, which, it was run down, but not really more than Pacifica itself. And there were people just hanging around. Normal people. A scan showed they weren't the super chromed out Borgs I was expecting. Was this it? Where was the dark hellscape full of the screams of people being torn into pieces by cyberpsychos? Gangs constantly fighting and dying for eddies or something? That was the image I had in my head of a combat zone. Not this. I pulled to the side until Malcolm's Caliburn, and then Ichi's truck all pulled through the checkpoint, and I followed the guide path Hiromi had set up, leading us through the streets towards the massive stadium, the place that dominated the skyline, apart from the massive pair of skyscrapers. The stadium was apparently where the black market was run out of. The entire place was one big black market according to Hiromi. It was quiet. The streets weren't full of gunshots, and nothing really happened. I pulled into a parking garage just off the arena, and we all parked in a corner off to the side. Ichi's truck parked in just the right way to have his turrets be usable in case of any trouble. See? I told you there was nothing to worry about. Hiromi called out as she ran over and nudged me with her shoulder. I just glowered a bit at her, but that only made her smile wider. All right, Hermanita, little boss. You ready to go? Jackie asked, and Hiromi smiled brightly at being called boss. Yes. Ichi and Malcolm will guard the vehicles. Motoko and Mr. Wells, please follow me, Hiromi said with a big smirk on her face as she sauntered forward. I didn't grumble, instead quickly taking up position on her right. Armed and armored, although just in my Kangtao equipment, and not the Arasaka stuff. It wasn't ready yet, even if it would be better armor. Jackie easily took her left, and the big man did a lot to make sure our path was clear as we crossed the street, and then walked up the many steps into the old stadium. Bargus checkpoints dotted around, but they ignored us. Simply standing around in Alma to keep the peace, I guess. Hiromi guided us in. Her face casual as she walked through the small crowds that littered the entrance of the arena. We walked past a few food stalls that surprised me. Then into a lobby, and Hiromi took only a moment to pick a direction leading us to the left, and then into a long hallway that was full of more than just food stalls. Weapons, equipment, everything. I was thankful for my tech goggles as it hid my rapidly scanning eyes as I took in all the equipment laying around. We walked into a space that was absolutely loaded with weapons. High-end stuff too. HMGs and rifles. Militech surplus, and more. Hiromi walked right up to the woman that was behind a counter. Here for a pickup, under Mitsunashi. She offered, and the woman scanned her, before nodding. A nodded head to one of the toughs that seemed to be her guards, and he went into the back area, coming out with a crate that he dropped on the ground in front of us. Motoko, check it. I nodded without a word, and popped the latches. Inside was exactly what we expected. Multiple Militech ECM systems. I quickly checked them all, and while not in perfect condition, they were all functional, and repairable. I gave Hiromi a nod, and that was that. Her eyes went blue, and some eddies were passed over, and then Jackie did the gentlemanly thing and picked up the crate. We headed back out the way we came. Honestly, my surprise only grew when we met back up with Ichi and Malcolm. Things are quiet. Not even some of the druggies over there came to bother us. Ichi told me as we were loading the crate up into his truck. That's so weird. I expected something. Bargus doesn't want people messing with the black market. That's where they make a lot of their eddies. Hiromi cut in, once more reminding me that my understanding of this entire section of the city was off. Come on, let's get out of here. Unless you want to go back in to look around. I instantly shook my head. I can't say I wasn't interested in looking around, but not with Hiromi and my chums hanging around. No, let's get out of here. And you were right. Sorry. I told Hiromi, who blew into a massive smile at my admittance. Of course. You should know by now that I'm always right. She cheered herself, bursting into full-on Oju laughter, after which it took me a moment to realize she was doing specifically to fuck with us. I just rolled my eyes and nudged her, sending her almost sprawling. All right, get loaded up then, Ms. Always Right. I want to get out of here. Hee hee. She offered as she ran to jump into Malcolm's Caliburn. Thanks, Jack. For backing us up. Hey, not a bad gig. Your little chumba boss pays good. The large man admitted, rubbing a thumb over his nose. Good. I trust you. So I hope you come join us for gigs in the future too. Hey. I just might, Amanita. Just gotta get used to working with kids. I shrugged. I get it. Jackie was almost 30. Still stuck doing shit gigs. He never made it to the major leagues, in his own words, until the end. Hopefully I could drag him along, because he actually was a solid solo. Come on, let's get out of here before my nightmares of wild cyber psychos come true. Jackie was paid, the chums split off, and I had a crate of Militech ECM units to adapt to our armor. I spent an hour going over the first ECM unit, checking first the hardware, making sure everything would work, while performing some minor maintenance, mostly just cleaning out the things, as it was obvious they had been in storage for a while. Then I pulled open the program that ran the ECM and narrowed my eyes as I looked through it. I had my suspicions that Militech would have some way to get around this. Either an outright backdoor, or more likely, a master code that would make the ECM useless against their own smart rounds. It wouldn't be easy to find though. It would be hidden deep into the code. Which? Well, fortunately for me, I was just getting an idea on how the program worked, and then I grabbed my laptop, plugged my personal link into it, and started writing a new program from scratch. If I couldn't trust the program, then I would just make my own. I was back outside the next morning. After spending all night working on the program, I was out at the gym, pushing myself as hard as I could to try and get more body XP. There was no John bothering me today, thankfully. Just me and the weights that I was pushing myself against. And the new Chrome was making a massive difference. I was pushing weight I never would have managed before. My arms were connected to my body far more intrinsically now. No more tingling feeling around my shoulders telling me I was pulling at my bones a bit too much. No, I felt strong. My Chrome secured into the hole, making Motoko strong. I finally put down the weights, wiping my forehead on a towel, as I then wiped down the weights. That was a good physical workout, but I had more to grind. I cleaned up a bit and double-checked my boots were secure before I started jogging down the neon-lit stairs into the street, and then I turned right and started moving, pushing myself to keep going despite already being tired. I jogged all the way to where the road ended, Jig Street just below. I took the elevator, keeping myself moving as it went down by shadowboxing and keeping my heart rate up. When it opened, I was out and moving, jogging quickly through the dark street of Jig, ignoring the looks I was getting as I ran through, and then ended up at Sakura Market. Though this time I didn't stop for ramen. Instead I ran up the concrete stairs, ending back up on the upper levels. I ran towards home, sprinting and jogging in bursts to try and push myself even more. By the time I made it back, I had earned some alerts for athletics and body, but no level ups. I sighed, heading upstairs, ignoring the noise of Rockaboy neighbor playing her music again, and headed in for a shower. As I finished that, head half covered in a towel, June was up. June was making himself breakfast, and looking at me tiredly. Mornin'. Morning, June. Sleep well? He blinked at me, both eyelids closing at slightly different paces. Slept okay. Not enough. He grumbled, and I nodded, walking over and patting his back. Can't go back to sleep for a while? Got a gig from Fujimura-sama. Just bodyguard stuff like usual, but he wants me. Well, if you start feeling too tired, you tell him that you need a break to get some sleep. I ordered as I wandered away. I knew June wouldn't and couldn't do that, but I cared more for June's health than I did Fujimura's wants. Shorimoto. I laughed at his obviously insincere reply, but that was fine. I buzzed around June, making sure his double XL burrito was warmed enough but not too hot before plopping it in his hand, which he stared at in surprise for a moment before looking happy as he took a bite. My own breakfast was a mix of a few other things I liked that I could find in vending machines in the area. I choked it all down as fast as I could, ignoring the taste as most food in Night City I could only just stomach, and certainly didn't enjoy. But food was food, and while it didn't taste good, one thing North Carolina did have was a dietary fulfilling foodstuffs. June seemed to finally wake up a bit after his breakfast, looked at me as I was sitting at the living room table tinkering with the ECM program. "What about you? Doing anything today?" "Mostly programming this Militech ECM unit. It's gonna take a while, but everything is quiet at the moment. I told you about the eddies we made in the Badlands, so we aren't exactly hurting right now." June just snorted. That gig made more than June made in a year and then some. "Don't rub it in," he told me with a huff, and I laughed, shaking my head. I wasn't. "Although if you ever want to leave the Gangoon Biz Section 9 would consider your resume." "Consider it," I offered, eyes narrowed like I was judging him, and he instantly grabbed a pillow off the couch and launched it at me. But I was too fast. I saw it coming, and leapt leaping backwards from where I was sitting to land crouched on the back of the couch, having dodged his attack. 9-inch nails, 9-inch nails. "Fuck off," he snapped, half serious and half laughing at me as he wandered to the bathroom for his own shower. I was actually a little disappointed that June didn't want a rough house, but he was pretty tired. I'd make sure he got a good night's sleep tonight and wake him up with a pillow to the face tomorrow for daring to attack me. I was grinning evilly as I settled back onto the couch to continue the programming. I ran the program through the ECM unit. Seeing it turn on, I cobbled together a hollow emitter to get it to actually display, showing just a circle of light that activated. Everything looked good. But I would need to actually test it. Gathering up a unit, as well as grabbing a spare Yukimura from the Arasaka equipment, I loaded it up and left the apartment. Couldn't exactly do any shooting in here. In fact, I couldn't do it in most places. I loaded up and drove north, taking the long circuitous road out to Westbrook. It didn't take too long to find a side of the road that was full of trash and empty enough I could do some practice. I plopped the ECM unit on an old crate, and then walked away, hooking the Yukimura up into my smart link and then placing a target to the side of the ECM. I didn't exactly want to shoot it after all. Then I remotely activated the ECM unit and opened fire. Pretty much instantly the rounds shot forward and then simply went wild as their targeting systems fed them nothing but false data. Bullets, instead of shooting straight, went wild, thunking and slamming into the ground. One even got so turned around it spun towards me, and I had to duck out of the way as it zipped past. "Well, that was a thing," I muttered, quickly checking the ECM system and checking the programming, finding out how it handled actually being targeted. Most of that was stripped wholesale from the original programming, so it handled it just fine. A few quick tests, and a few more rounds shot towards the ECM, and I was convinced. It works. Not it was time to install. What are you doing?" June asked as he got home that night. I looked up from the chest rig I was rigging the hollow emitters through to shake it at him. "Armor." "Yes, I see that. But what are you doing?" "The little box is right there. ECM modules. I'm outfitting the chest rigging with the hollow emitters it needs to spoof smart weapon tracking right now. The dang things are fiddly." He nodded as he picked one up that I already finished and settled in its place, looking it over as I continued to work. I was almost done. The hardest part had been peeling apart the cloth sections, to slip wires through to power the emitters. I had to do actual sewing, but sewing with Kevlar wasn't easy. "The work looks good. Why do you need hollow emitters?" "Same reason your tattoos glow. The smart weapons tracking gets spoofed by the data in the hologram." "Why not just get a ECM tattoo then? They aren't expensive." "While having an ECM on me at all times could be useful." "I don't like tattoos," I said, and June actually looked shocked at what I just said. "What's wrong with tattoos?" "I just don't like them." I finally got the wire to go through. Quickly soldering it into the power system, I started sewing Kevlar closed again. Well, you should. Mine are preem. I looked over to June, his stupid vest-like jacket that didn't cover his chest or arms to show off his chrome muscles, and the dragon tattoos across his chest. If you say so, I answered, earning an honest squawk of outrage from June. My tattoos are awesome, Motoko. I'm glad you like them, I answered, and he grumbled deep in his chest and my continued disinterest. You just aren't preem enough to have tats. Reverse psychology? I wouldn't want them even if they were offered, I replied, continuing to sew up the armor. Come on, so close to being done. June's big hand suddenly reached over and fell over my head, patting me lightly, and I scoffed a bit, but leaned in and nudged him to show that I appreciated the attention. Done, I proclaimed, holding up the complete chest rig, and then, just as I expected, I got the alert I needed. 100 technical ability XP gained. Technical ability leveled up. Tech 6. I giggled and clutched the rig tight as I luxuriated in a job well done. What's with you? I finished it. Well, okay, no, I still have a lot of work to do, but I finished the ECM units. These were such a pain in the ass, June. Well, that's good. I'm proud of you, he offered awkwardly, not sure what else to say, but honestly, that was perfect. I threw him a bright smile as I rose up, holding the rig. I still need to color, adjust, and do some tinkering on these, so I'm not done, but this was a big step, I informed him proudly as I sauntered back to my room. Now I just needed to fix the helmets so they didn't look like kitty ears. Which they don't. My chooms are just dumb. Sleeping in past noon was my duty as a teenager, and I really needed 8 hours after all the work I had done. Painting, and doing adjustments to the armor to fit my chooms. I had even spent a little time in CAD adjusting the directional mic housing so I would stop getting teased. But honestly, it was mostly done. It was time to bring the chooms in. Motoko, Section 9. Assemble at my place for final adjustments to our new armor. This time there could be no confusion. They had totally failed my original assembly call, but this time. Hiromi, okay. I'll be on my way after class. Ichi, okay. I'm just hanging out today. I'll come over. Malcolm, yes. I'm in. Gonna suit up. You got rid of the cat ears, right? Motoko, it wasn't cat ears. I promptly ignored all the messages in return because my chooms were definitely going to mess with me. Instead I ran around prepping some snacks and things for everyone. It might take a bit of time to adjust everything to each person after all. Ichi arrived first, knocking on the door, and I smiled as it opened to him. Ichi, come in. I wanted to get one of you suited up first anyways. The others can be surprised at how nova you look when they get here. I'm the guinea pig, he said flatly, nodding along as I ignored his words and dragged him into my room. Okay, everything should be straightforward. You know how to wear armor, right? Go ahead and suit up and... Nope. He interrupted me instantly, completely monotone. And I'll show you. Easy. Nothing to worry about, choom. Not everyone knows how to wear good armor after all. I redirected instantly without worry. Ichi then laughed at me, but nodded, and I grabbed the first set of armor and showed it to him. The color is... Listen. I had to think about what color scheme to use, and since all of you wanted bright colors, I used my rights as the one who is updating these things to pick a nice gray and black camouflage. At least it matches our old suits. That's the spirit. I chirped as I started throwing the base layer at him. Even though it didn't have a netrunner suit to properly armor him, I threw the pair of pants and the upper jacket, and then turned around and whistled so he could get changed. Can't I do this in the bathroom? Fine, I'll walk out of the room, just call me when you are decent. I rushed outside my bedroom and tapped my foot impatiently. Come on, Ichi. Alright. Great. Now this. I threw the boots at him, which he juggled for a second but slipped off his old shoes and into the combat boots, as he was struggling to get them secured, as they used a weird not Velcro system. I ran around and prepped the outer layers. The chest rig wasn't just a chest rig, and actually connected to the pants with some kinda neat future folds. Although I had slimmed down the chest rig by removing most of the pouches. Pouches were good, but if they stuck out too much it made it harder to comfortably hold a gun. Silly Arasaka. This was the sort of design issue mandated by a boardroom and not by soldiers. Done? Ichi finally called, more questioning than sure. Great. Chest rig next. Slide into it, and then I'll show you how it secures on the sides. Right. He muttered as he slipped in, the armored future gorge shit taking a second for him to get used to. I had to adjust it down so he could actually look down without just getting stuck on it. Yep, Ichi was definitely shorter than the last person to wear this stuff. Here are the straps. Just tighten these, and it will keep your folds in place. He did so with a bit of trouble, and then I had him walk around a bit getting used to the armor. It was thick. That was the first thing I noticed he struggled with. He kept brushing his arms against the chest rig as he moved around. You'll get used to it, I assured him as he was looking a little annoyed. Is this necessary? If I pulled out my Lexington and shot you right now, you would be fine. I explained in very blunt terms, and for some reason Ichi looked nervous, like I was going to actually shoot him. Silly. I wouldn't do that. Okay, here are the gloves. They are nice and bulky, good for punching, and protecting your hands. I helped him slip those on. As he adjusted to the fit, I brought out the last item. It still looks like cat ears. I am going to give you the benefit of pretending I didn't hear that, I told him as I handed off the helmet. He slipped it on, struggling a bit with the face mask part of it. The helmet had a built-in menpo, an armored face guard. As always, Arasaka made all their stuff look like future samurai, which was pretty cool. But it was always kinda hard to get situated right. Okay. You are all set. How does it feel? Not too uncomfortable, he said, sounding a little confused as he turned this way and that, feeling the range of movement he now had. You'll get used to it. Now, take your personal link and slide it into the helmet right here. That will download the command codes for the radio. I helped him plug in, and then he had access to the radio. I've messed with the settings. Channel 1 is our personal radio contact. You won't need to change from it very often. Channel 2 isn't the radio at all, but the directional mic built into the helmet. No, it's still not cat ears. I could see him smirking behind the helmet, and so since he was properly armored I punched him in the shoulder. Hard. Ow. Motoko. He yelped, rubbing his shoulder but giving up on it pretty quickly. You barely felt it. Now switch to the mic, and I'll show you how it works. I quickly ran Ichi through the process, walking all the way across the apartment and then whispering. The fact he could still hear me throwing me a thumbs up when I asked for it was all I needed. Perfect. Now we just need to make some minor adjustments. Make sure everything is fitting exactly how it should. So what do I do then? You stand very still. Then just to fuck with him I pulled out my knife, and moved behind him. Of course I instantly put the knife away, but he didn't know that. Motoko? What's with the knife? Motoko? Help? There is no help for you, Ichi. Dash. Whoa. That actually looks pretty scary, Malcolm commented as he finally arrived over an hour later. I had even finished adjusting Ichi's armor. Malcolm. You are late, I proclaimed, finger pointed as I stood up. Sorry, Chum. My dad needed help with something. He offered, actually sounding a little contrite, and I instantly lost my irritation. No. That's fine. Parent stuff is important. Anyway, we are still waiting on Hiromi. Come on, let me show you how to suit up. Good luck, Ichi said from the couch where he was splayed out, acting as if he was exhausted. Ignore him. Come on, I urged, pushing Malcolm into my room to get ready. Halfway through, Hiromi finally appeared, cheerfully bouncing into the apartment and calling out her arrival. Give me a second, Hiromi. Malcolm is almost done, I called out, as I was helping Malcolm secure the armored folds. A little later Malcolm finished suiting up and I pushed him out into the living room to show off. See? It looks great. It makes me feel like I have a corporate hit squad. I love it, Hiromi chirped, smiling brightly as she looked at the two boys. Ichi just slumped deeper into the couch, still not getting up, while Malcolm stood tall and puffed himself out. Just remember to pay your henchmen well or else, Malcolm proclaimed, and Hiromi immediately gasped. No. My henchmen are betraying me. Quick. Help. Motoko. My right hand and ever-loyal minion. Discipline this unruly henchman. PFFT. Motoko should join us and get paid better. Hey. I walked behind Malcolm and just lifted him off his feet. Malcolm might be a little taller than me, and a bit more with the boots and rig on, but I was fucking fit. My arms went around his waist and I just picked him right off the floor. As you wish, my corporate overlord. I stated in an utterly flat voice, earning a delighted giggle from Hiromi as Malcolm struggled in my grip. Hey. Let me go. Motoko. He. I eventually couldn't hold it in and started laughing at Malcolm's attempts to get back on his feet. He was new to the armor and was like a turtle stuck on its back. Eventually I dropped him. Okay. Enough playing around, Hiromi, come on. Time to suit up. I'm the fixer, Motoko. I can't go around wearing armor like that, everyone will think I'm some meep. I ignored Hiromi, picking her up like a sack of potatoes, throwing her over my shoulder and walking into my room. Any argument about not wearing armor would immediately be ignored. Protection was God. Motoko.